Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight is going to be movie content. Also TV show content in a way, because for today's video, we're going to go over everything I watched in the month of January. I watched a total of 8 movies and started 1 TV show, so let's jump right into the video. So for the first movie I watched in the month of January, I went to a secret screening at my local AMC theater. That ended up being The Book of Clarence. This movie takes place during the time of Jesus' day, like right before he died on the cross, and it focuses on our main character Clarence, who's coming across some troubled times, and he doesn't really believe in what Jesus is doing. However, he pretends to be the next Messiah so that way he can get some followers and more money to support his life. It's essentially a retelling of Jesus, but Jesus is a con artist. I don't know what I was expecting when I saw that title card. I had never heard of this movie when I saw the title card, but I ended up really enjoying this movie. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars first of all, and it was a lot of fun. I really felt for our main character, and yeah, some of the things he did were scammy, but I totally understand why he did these actions. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and the movie was hilarious. I laughed my way through. The theater was very happy throughout this viewing. I like the parallels to Jesus' story. So Jesus is a character in this movie. It's not that Jesus doesn't exist at all, but it was interesting to see the counterparts in Clarence's story. So like, for example, Clarence has his John. Is it John the Baptist or John the Beloved? I always get the two confused. The John that was with Jesus during the crucifixion, Clarence has his own version of that. There's Clarence's mother, who's supposed to be the counterpart of the Virgin Mary. Clarence has his own Mary Magdalene. And I thought it was really cool how they did that, because it was obvious these people were supposed to be, you know, their biblical counterparts, but they still had their own distinct personalities. So his Mary Magdalene acted a lot differently than the real Mary Magdalene, but you still knew that she was supposed to be her in a sense. This movie is very clearly based on the religious epics of the 1950s, and I think it captured that well. The costuming was on point, and some of the most realistic costumes I've ever seen for something that takes place during this time period. And the sets were super grandiose, and you could tell a lot of extras were involved. Given the ending of this movie and Clarence's journey and what it represents and, you know, the moral of the story, I'm not sure if I would recommend this to people who aren't religious. But as someone, like, I'm not religious myself, but I was able to appreciate this film for what it was. So again, fun film, 4 out of 5 stars. The next film, however, that I watched was a disaster, and that is Night Swim. This is a horror movie. It is about a haunted swimming pool, and yeah, it is as stupid as you think it sounds. I understand what this movie was trying to do at the end there, but like, boo, tomatoes, throwing tomatoes. I hated everything about this movie. It was so boring that I can't even say it was, you know, like so bad it's good. Everyone's acting was pretty bad, which is a shame because Carrie Condon's in this, and she's a, you know, Oscar nominated actress. She was in the Banshees of Inisherin that she did a great job with. But in this one was rough, so at some point you do kind of have to blame the direction. And she can't really do an American accent just yet. Her Irish accent kept slipping a lot, actually. To the point I was confused on what her character was supposed to be, like Irish or American. I remember thinking halfway through the movie, like, oh, this is probably based on someone's short story and they tried to make a feature-length film out of it. Sure enough, the end credits come and it says based on the short story by the same guy who directed the movie, and it's like, wow. Should have just kept it a short story. The only good thing about this movie was the song during the end credits. I thought that slapped. So I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. Not 1 out of 5, just because I appreciate that they tried doing something new at the end, but still bad. 2 out of 5 stars. Can't believe in 2024, in January, or February now, but in January of 2024, I already had a runner-up for like one of the worst movies of the year. So the next movie I watched, we're heading over to 1933, and that is Cade. This movie explores a London family's life from 1899 to 1932, and each family member is going through a big event in history, such as I think the death of Queen Victoria, the Titanic, the Great War, just anything major that happened within that time frame. I don't really have much to say about this film because I was bored out of my mind. I didn't care for any of these characters, which kind of just, it lost me. Like, if I didn't care about them, if I don't care about a character, I don't care about their story, I don't want to pay attention. And then nothing about this movie was gripping, and I I just didn't care about anything. Like, I would not have seen this movie if it wasn't for the fact I'm trying to watch all the Best Picture winners in history. But also, having said that, I could see why it won Best Picture. It seems like it's the first of its kind. It very much walks so something like Forrest Gump could run. I ended up giving this movie 2 out of 5 stars. So next I watched AI Artificial Intelligence. This movie is about a family that adopts a robot named David, and he is not what he seems. That's basically all I could say about this movie without spoiling anything, because that's the only synopsis anything provides, and it's just so funny because everything within that synopsis takes place within like the first quarter of the movie. And then after that, I promise you, you will have absolutely no idea where this is going. I actually genuinely enjoyed this film, but also at the same time, I don't know how I feel specifically, because I feel like I'm still flabbergasted at the direction this movie was taking, but like I couldn't look away. I thought the graphics were great, especially for its time. The one guy I laughed at every time he came on the screen was Jude Law, because he looks exactly like some character from the Lazy Town show that I used to watch as a kid. And that was all I was able to think of. The best part of this movie, though, is hands down David, who's played by Haley Joel Osment. That kid put on a performance. Rent was due, and he got that check. He's the I See Dead People kid, and he is quite frankly one of the best child actors I've ever come across. He captured the uncanniness of David so well that I was very uncomfortable in the beginning of the movie, but you're supposed to be. So he did his job correctly. But not only that, he did such a great job portraying David and his character development that I grew to really love David as a character. Watching this character go from this uncanny doll to something human-like with genuine emotion and like genuine love for something was an experience. And it didn't feel rushed or anything. It felt very, very natural. Like, Haley Joel Osment did such a great job with this. And then something about this movie is, it's like a feel-good movie, but not in the sense like a comedy would be a feel-good movie. This very much feels like a warm hug. The ending was bittersweet, I should say. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. So next I headed back to the theater so I could see Mean Girls the Musical. This is a movie adaptation of the stage musical adaptation, which is an adaptation of the comedy movie. You know what? I actually had high hope for this film because I have seen the stage musical back in Chicago, and I really did enjoy it for what it was. But girl, I thought this movie was terrible. So as a movie, something I did like, the acting was mostly fine. I say mostly because Gretchen's bothered me. There was something about it that felt very unnatural. Cade, the woman who played Cade, was hands down the best actor throughout the entire movie, but she was also the weakest singer. I thought the pacing of this film was way too fast, and I felt like I wasn't able to connect with any of these characters. Quite frankly, I feel like if I had not seen the original movie, I wouldn't understand motives in this one. There was no room for these characters to flesh out. I thought the choreography was a mess. There were some good transitions here and there, but the choreography was a mess. Some of the like color schemes were a mess in certain songs. They weren't that mean. Like, the mean girls just weren't nasty like they were in the original film, and even the stage musical, they could be pretty rough. Like, the movie's called Mean Girls, and if anything, these girls were just kind of slightly off-putting. So like, Mean Girls the Musical or slightly off-putting Girls the Musical. And it just wasn't funny. The original movie and the stage musical had me laughing my ass off, and in this whole movie I think I laughed once. It was the joke about Tina Fey not being able to sing, and even then I wasn't like laughing. I kind of just let out a huh and moved on. And then as an adaptation, I think this is pretty bad because they missed out on so many songs that would help the development and the pacing and fleshing out of characters. They missed out on my favorite song, which is Whose House Is This? And I believe, if I remember correctly, they sing that during Katie's party. If they had to drop a song, I understand why that one was dropped, because that one doesn't really push forward the plot, but I don't care. It's the best one, and I was looking forward to it, and I was so upset when I realized they skipped it. I mean, at one point they sing the reprise, whatever, like the second part of a song, but they don't sing the original. Katie and the love interest, there's a song when they're at, you know, her house together, her house party together, and then the very last song of the movie is the reprise of that song. but they skipped out on the original, so then therefore when she sings I See Stars at the end, it didn't hit the same. And they missed out on others too. And like, listen, I get it. Given the runtime, I understand why they had to drop songs, but a lot of these songs I feel like would have helped the character development and just the pacing of the film. And then, you know, because they dropped songs and it messed with shit, I feel like this adaptation is a good example of why movies and stage musicals are often considered two completely different mediums, and sometimes they should stay that way. But I gave this movie 2 out of 5 stars. So the Oscar nominees were announced, and I'm now trying to watch as many Oscar-nominated films as I can, whether they're for Best Picture or nominated for something else that's not Best Picture. So the first movie I'm watching for this journey is Poor Things. This movie is about a woman who is brought back to life and is essentially learning what it means to be human. You could also describe it as a feminist Frankenstein retelling. This was a really fun one. I've been looking forward to this movie since the first trailer dropped, and I'm glad I finally got to see it. I loved all the characters, even the ones that you're kind of supposed to hate. I love their depiction, their portrayal. They're all over the top and kooky, but given like the set designs and like what this movie's trying to say, it works. I love the grandiose costumes and the sets. This takes place in like a steampunk Victorian era universe, and I think this is Emma Stone's best performance that I've ever seen her in. Watching her transform and evolve Bella Baxter from this infantilized woman, like mentally speaking, to this infantilized woman to a grown adult was a fascinating experience because it didn't feel rushed at all. It felt very natural, because I feel like movies like these, they fall victim to rushing the process just when they want to like get a point across, but obviously it's due to the script writing as well. So everyone involved, not just Emma Stone, they did such a great job with this portrayal of Bella Baxter. And sexuality is a big theme in this movie because a lot of people use their sexuality to like learn who they are as a person, but in the case of this movie, she is quite literally using sex to learn what she does and does not like. That being said, the anti-sexting crowd will absolutely not like this movie because there is a lot, and some of them are explicit. There's some scenes, you ever like watch a sex scene where you're kind of just staring at it like, are they acting or am I watching porn? Because I feel like this movie crossed that line a few times. There were definitely a few times where I was like, you know, is his dick in there? I don't mean to say that to be crass. I'm just saying that's how like explicit these scenes were. I typically don't mind stuff like that, but I know for some people that is very uncomfortable, so I just did want to make you guys aware. I only have one gripe with this movie, which is why I did not give it 5 out of 5 stars. This movie is over 2 hours long, and it can feel like that. There were a few times where I was like, I'm kind of ready for this to end, but at the same time, I can't imagine this movie being any shorter, just given how perfect the evolution of the character was, and if it was any shorter, it would ruin that. To me, the movie felt a bit too long at times, but I don't know how they would be able to fix that. But I ended up giving this movie 4 out of 5 stars. So then the next movie I watched was The Zone of Interest. This is about the commandant of Auschwitz and his family and their life while they live quite literally next door to the Auschwitz concentration camp. This movie has raving reviews, and I'm just gonna be quite honest, this was not for me, which is sad because I do love World War II movies, but the way this was shown, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of slow movies, even when they're purposefully slow, which is what this one is. I can't do it, no matter how interesting the topic is. If it's super slow, I can't get into it, and that's what this movie is. So it's a victim of being something I probably should not have seen, because I did not enjoy my time watching this. I understand why it was slow, because the whole point of the movie is to show how mundane their lives were while they were quite literally living next door to horrors beyond comprehension. Like, for example, there's a scene where his wife is gossiping with her friends. They're just gossiping about what their friends are wearing, you know, while there's gunshots in the background. But it just did not make a good, interesting watch for me. I fell asleep at one point in the theater, which is embarrassing, but it is what it is. That being said though, even though this movie's not for me, like, knowing what this movie was going for, I think it did do a great job doing what it set out to do. This movie was able to show horrors without actually quite literally showing you. So like, for example, while I think it was a kid just walking around, like one of his sons just walking around his backyard. In the background, you could hear one of the prisoners screaming for help as he's being killed. Like, that scene specifically sent a chill down my spine. So stuff like that they did a really good job with. And especially learning how they did the camera work. I read somewhere that like there wasn't really anyone on set with the actors. Cameras were hidden throughout the house. And it does show like a different perspective for this film. Given all that though, I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. I obviously was not going to give this 5 out of 5 given my viewing experience, but I'm obviously not going to give this 1 out of 5 stars because I can't appreciate it for what it is. The last movie I watched in January was American Fiction. This is about an author named Monk whose writing career has stalled a bit because publishing companies thinks his stories aren't black enough. So, as essentially a protest to the publishing companies, he writes what he thinks is a satirical book that includes the worst stereotypes about black people that you can think of, and he writes it under a pseudonym. However, the publishing companies end up eating up the story and they consider it the epitome of the black experience, so they want to publish it, they want to put it in like a high-end competition, they want to turn it into a movie. So now Monk has to take on this role, and the deeper he dives into this, the more his worldviews are challenged. This movie was actually pretty funny. This is another one I went into blind, so I wasn't too sure what it was going to be about, but it ended up being pretty funny. There were a few times, the guy next to me was like screaming laughing a few times, and sometimes his laugh was funnier than the joke itself. But I thought this movie was a good commentary about how publishing tends to treat black authors. They claim they want to hear black voices, but at the same time, the only time they want to hear these voices are when the voices are suffering. Because Monk even says himself, like, no, this book is black enough because I'm a black man and I wrote the book. And I thought one of the most interesting aspects of this film is that, you know, ironically, Monk hates that the only stories that get published and viewed are those of black suffering, but his family is kind of also suffering throughout the film. Not in the way, you know, his satirical character is doing so, but in other ways. Like, there's something going on with, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's something going on with his sister, something going on with his brother, something going on with his mom, something going on with the love interest. And I think that's what's truly challenging his worldviews. But one of the things I loved about this film was his family, because I love the familial bonds and the explorations of, you know, different things people can go through. But my favorite part about that was that there is still joy to be found despite the hardships they were going through. That being said, fair warning, because I know a lot of people don't like these, there is an extremely open ending. You are not going to get any solid conclusion. I was fine with it, but I know a few people were audibly angry about it in my theater, so fair warning going into that. But this is a fun movie, and I do recommend it. I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And now on to the one TV show I watched in January. So the one TV show I watched, I did not complete, but I watched a lot of episodes, is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This is an animated TV show that premiered on Cartoon Network, and it takes place in the Star Wars universe, and it takes place between Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and where I'm at right now, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, because I believe like the last 2 seasons takes place during that movie. This whole show is essentially about Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano, and just other characters of the Star Wars universe fighting different battles throughout the Clone Wars. And y'all, I am halfway through season 4. There's 7 seasons. I am halfway through season 4, and I am having an absolute blast. I think this is some of the best Star Wars content out there. This is definitely helping develop Anakin's character, because personally my biggest complaint with the sequel movies is that his switch to Palpatine's sides is a little too rushed. It feels a bit random. Like, the evilness was there, but the show is definitely helping flesh it out more. I love most of the new characters it's introducing and most of the new planets that they're showing. Like, this show truly does feel like an expansion of the Star Wars universe. It's also cool watching the animation of the show evolve, because there's a movie that takes place before this, and like the first couple seasons, it is god awful. It is rough to watch sometimes, but at this point of where I'm at in season 4, it's actually pretty great. And you know what? I'm gonna say it. I really like Ahsoka. I was warned by multiple people in real life, and I see multiple people on social media complain that she is a rough character and during her beginnings. Like, a lot of people don't like her. I see constantly on social media, every time people bring up Rey Skywalker or another female character in Star Wars, everyone always brings up Ahsoka. They're always like, she was terrible in the beginning, but she actually has character development. So I went into this, I went into both the movie and this thinking she was going to be like one of the worst characters in fiction, and she's fine. And I'm not just saying that because I'm halfway through season 4. I I thought she was fine when she was first introduced in the movie. And she was fine in season 1, episode 1 of this TV show. I mean, does she have her moments where it's like, okay, Ahsoka, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, but so does every other character in this show. Like, I guess people are referring to the fact that, like, in the beginning and somewhat now, she had a habit of not really, like, listening to people and questioning her masters. But from what I noticed, she really only questioned them if they had, like, an actually genuinely stupid idea. And then she ended up being right about it more than half the time. So, I don't know. I don't know what people are talking about. I love her. She's actually one of my favorite characters. She's been one of my favorite characters of this TV show. But if even her haters like her eventually, I just know I'm gonna have a lot more fun as the show keeps going. What I'm not looking forward to in later seasons is all these other Jedi dying, because I've grown to love a lot of them. Like Master Luminara, love her. Her Padawan, love her. I was spoiled about her Padawan though, and I'm a little upset, but as of now, love her. I love basically everyone that was introduced, and I'm gonna be so sad by the end of this. But yeah, I'm having a great time. I've paused it for now so I can watch all my Oscar movies, and plus the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender comes out this month, but I will be picking it up again in March. And that is it for this video. Let me know down below if you guys have seen these movies and what your thoughts are, if you're interested in seeing these movies. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe, y'all know the drill. And without further ado, I'm gonna peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao, tutti.